What are some easy ways to grow your medical practice? What kind of changes can you make to attract more patients? How would things change at your clinic if you started offering body sculpting treatments? What are the biggest secrets for marketing body sculpting inside of your practice? Great news! Today's special guest is a doctor who has the answers. If you too are looking to add body sculpting inside of your practice, then pay close attention to the advice revealed in today's episode. Cue the music. Welcome to the Marketing Podcast Party, the only marketing podcast where you and I party together while discovering big, bold, and wildly successful marketing ideas that can transform your business. I'm your host, Daniel Din. Let's get this party started. Oh man, I really like the way my hair whips today. That is pretty dang cool.
Boom, baby. Woo.
Let's go. Oh man, in today's episode, we are going to discover big ideas to improve your medical practice. And did you know that I personally worked with over a dozen doctors, helping them with big, bold, sticky, and wildly successful marketing ideas? I share one of my favorite marketing stories from one of the doctors I worked with in my new book, Ideas That Influence. So after this episode, if you'd like to access even more great marketing and business ideas, then I want to give you a copy of my book for free. Ideas That Influence comes with an amazing box experience, and you can get both the book and the box experience today for free. You just pay shipping and handling costs. To grab your copy, visit bigideasbox.com. Once again, that's bigideasbox.com for your free plus shipping copy of Ideas That Influence, the book, and the interactive box experience. And now it's time to introduce my very special guest. And I'm going to be honest. Dr. Bryan Call, aka Chewy, sent over one of the most impressive bios I have ever seen. And he has some amazing stories to tell. For example, Dr. Call used to be the CEO of a stem cell company. He now owns a biohacking wellness facility. He is also the coolest chiropractor doctor I've ever met. He now enjoys training Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, which I can appreciate. I love Jiu-Jitsu as well. He loves practicing cold exposure therapy, cold hiking and running, freestyle skiing. He's currently learning to kiteboard. He loves teaching and playing with his 3 children, and he enjoys travel with his amazing wife. He's got a crazy story to also share about a spine injury from around the time when he was 24 years old. Let's welcome to the show, Dr. Call. Oh, let's go, Chewy.
What's up, guys? How we doing?
Chewy, man, so you've got some really cool things to share. You gotta at least tell us about the injury,
Okay.
but also incorporate that into your journey. Like, what got you here today?
Yeah, that's a lot of my journey. Is athletics was always a big part of my life, and I had the designs to while I was in college and kind of playing football, and I was in the semi-pro leagues of that. You call it like that. It's really more like tri-county or tri-state like football kind of a thing. Nobody really gets farmed out of there or anything like that. Well, I was doing that, and I got my first sponsorship as a skier, trying to break my way into the professional bracket, and I was so excited. I was like, man, I finally made it. This is like the season it goes through, and went out doing some big cliffs, and I ended up fracturing some vertebrae in my back. And it kind of like T-boned my whole life, like as an athlete, like you kind of anticipate things to be like a certain way, and then all of a sudden that was ripped and taken out of me. So kind of like a change of like who you are as a person. I went for a few years through the traditional medical route of take these pills, do these things to kind of help that go away, and it was like 3.5 years of pretty consistent. Like my back was giving me lots of trouble, and I couldn't do the things I wanted to. And my wife, who grew up in Seattle, was more into holistics, and she'd been going to a chiropractor all along. And I literally would like joke with her and be like, "Oh, are you gonna go to your shaman and you're gonna rub crystals on your butt and make you feel better?" And she finally convinced me to go, and it was after about 3.5 weeks of going to a chiropractor that my 3+ years of pain was probably halved, maybe like 60% less. And I was like, whoa, this is crazy. That kind of put me on like my healing journey of doing that. And I've always been like a wild and outlandish kind of like a guy. So like the Marketing Party podcast, dressing up kind of nutty and stuff was perfect. Totally in line with that. So I went to like more of the fringe stuff. Yeah, we started a chiropractic center that did like stem cell work. I had a medical doctor, a nurse practitioner, a physical therapist on staff. We kind of like the whole picture that we do like peptides. We do all sorts of IV infusions on top of the chiropractic and rehab. Then I left that organization and came out to Oregon because I wanted to be closer to family. And we started our biohacking facility, which we do a lot of traumatic brain injury, nerve recovery repair, spinal stabilization to assist discs to recover and regrow. And one of the things that we brought into our organization was an awesome technology that's called Body Sculpting. It's the Emsculpt NEO device, and it's originally it was more of like an aesthetics device. Brought over, it was
Yeah.
invented like 2018 over in the Czech Republic, and it was more for like grow muscle, burn fat. So it got approved by the FDA for non-surgical lipolysis, which is like basically liposuction without having to go and have it sucked out or cut out, and
Wow.
which is very cool. But what I wanted it for was it had the ability in clinical trials, like pre-post MRI, it could increase muscle tissue density by 25% after 4 sessions. So I was like, dude, I can grow muscle for somebody. So if they're in an injury, their back is destabilized, happens to the majority of the population, they're going to have that incident one time in their adult life.
Yeah.
And if I can stabilize the tissues that can grow around those segments, the spine, the pelvis, man, can we change some lives with this. So that was why I went with like the beginning there. Yeah.
Wow, that's mind blowing. I mean, in so many different ways. Let me ask you this. So you mentioned the injury from when you were 24, the spine injury, and so you went on this whole journey. What's the pain level today based off of the journey that you went through? How old are you today, by the way?
43.
43. Okay, so this was 19 years ago.
Yeah.
So the pain level from that traumatic injury from 19 years ago, like, do you still feel it today, or is that a thing of the past? Like how did everything help you with that?
So like debilitating to now I'm completely functional. If I maintain my stretching routine and my exercise and I go and get my adjustments and things like that, I have zero pain. Like I have like no functional discrepancy after that outside of that. If I get off my routine and I don't get like my adjustments, or I'm not stretching, or I'm not doing my workouts, within about 6 weeks I'll start to have some kind of recurrent like problems come back on again. But as long as I get back on my routine, what I know that works, I'm good.
There you go. So you put up a good fight, 19-year fight. You figured out the routine, and now from debilitating down to zero pain level. If
Zero.
you're sticking with the routine, you put up a good fight. Let's go. That is absolutely incredible. Incredible. Because
And it was 13 years from the incident until I was back on the mountain doing backflips again. So
oh, that's right. Because you're still doing you're doing backflips today. That's crazy. So
yeah.
13 years later, you did. That must have been a huge day. Like when you did that backflip again.
Oh
13.
man, I couldn't tell you how stoked I was about it. It was like I don't know if this will work, but I was like I could pull up a picture here and kind of show that on the screen. But
Yeah.
um,
Yeah. That is so.
it was an insane thing for me to kind of get that portion of my life back.
Wow.
Um, like
Play some
So,
inspirational music. Oh my gosh. Look at that, dude. Oh, wow.
and I think this one is probably my favorite, which was that same year coming back.
Whoa. My gosh. You'll have to send me those pictures over so I can insert them into
Yeah, yeah.
the YouTube video of this version. If you guys are watching this on YouTube, then you guys can see those pictures. But basically looking like an Olympic athlete out there. I mean, there's no other way. No other way to put it. Like, wow, you went from now. What can happen? I don't want to be a downer or anything, but if people don't take care of themselves, if somebody in your same situation from when you were 24 and had the same injury, if they didn't really take care of it, could it have been like you're disabled
Yeah.
for the rest of your life?
Debilitating.
Oh my gosh. Well, it sounds like that this journey that led you to everything that you've figured out today has shaped your business in some really healthy ways. And so, thank you so much. Before we jump into how your business is different today and how other doctors can add body sculpting and other treatments to their own practices, um, people are probably wondering what is going on with this party gear today. Like who picked this? Like what? Why? What's the reason for? Because you partially picked the party gear. I have a quick story about the cow glasses, by the way. But you at least were like, oh yeah, go with the Popeye. Like that's good, right? So you want, yeah, let's go. Ooh, gun show, let's go. So you want to quickly explain what's going on with our party gear today?
Yeah, for sure, man. I'm like pineapples are my favorite. That has been kind of like the thing. This year is like one of my favorite totems. This is a black caiman alligator tooth from the Amazon jungle. I had some processes there. This is kind of like my little like token from coming back there. Very helpful in me in my own personal spiritual journey. And I'm all about doing good, so this is perfect. And I just happen to just really like these glasses.
Those are cool glasses. I gotta get. I don't have those glasses yet. Do good. Cotopaxi. My wife has a do good shirt. Cool, really cool brand, by the way. So you're. I mean, it's like the cool version of REI, right?
Yeah.
Cotopaxi, basically. Where'd you pick up that cool hat?
My wife got it for me.
Oh, nice, nice. Now I don't remember exactly. So we live in Florida now. We used to live in Utah. I don't remember if Cotopaxi started in Colorado or Utah or if it was Oregon. It was somewhere around there. But um, really cool brand. Really cool things that they do with their gear. Thanks for explaining the party gear. The second part of mine is so Popeye. You were like, oh, the Popeye shirt because of the body sculpting. Okay, so there we go. Um, and then I was like, well, I got these really. I just picked these up. These cow glasses, and it was like one of the funnest finds that I found. Um, I picked it up, and I was like, when am I ever going to use this? And immediately I was like, oh, you know what? These glasses, they remind me of one of the healthiest times in my life when I finally understood. And so Chewy, I'm this is a story about you don't know what you don't know, okay? Because my whole life I've basically um I never wanted to lift weights. I thought it was like a waste of time, so I would go out and like I would do sports all the time. I even when I was doing jujitsu for many years, I did jujitsu for about 6 years. I never had the desire to go lift weights,
Yeah.
and I would do basketball all the time, and I was pretty healthy. But I would always have a little bit of like if I wasn't like super counting my calories, I would have a little bit of a belly going on, like all the time,
Yeah.
right? Now you don't know what you don't know. But I finally learned in my mid 30s. Oh, if I lift weights and increase and watch my macros, increase my protein intake. That nod to the not that red meat's the healthiest, but it was the closest thing that I had that had to do with protein.
I don't know. I may disagree with you.
Oh, okay. Oh, there we go. Interesting. Interesting. share what you mean by that. But um, so basically, lifting weights and watching my so it's the same thing that most people tell you, and you have some different takes on that because of everything that you're doing at the body sculpting. But traditionally, the right answer for staying lean is watch the macros, uh, watch the calorie intake, and lift weights. And it helped me. It served me for a long time. And so that's why I went with the Cal glasses today. But sounds like you've got some interesting takes
I
on
also
that.
like that they're the white glasses because this is my normal jam. Like that's not my normal, right?
There
So
you go.
I'm like that was very like reminiscent of like the of how I look every day.
There you go. Yeah. There you go.
But
That
you're
makes sense.
right. There's a lot of people out there who have that like little extra layer of puff, and it's hard to kind of get off. You're not wrong by like watching calorie content, macros, a little high amino acid proteins, because you want your body to be able to build muscle. The real reason why lifting weights is like good is not just because it's like energy expenditure, but it's also that you're increasing the capacity to grow and maintain lean tissue. Lean tissue is going to increase your metabolic rate, which will then symmetrically start to burn additional calories for you at rest. So the more muscle you have, the longer we're going to live, the more healthy we're going to be, the less diseases we're susceptible to. It literally has like a pretty direct inversion ratio there that like if the least muscle you have, the more risk you have of death and disease.
There you go. You know what? You did like I'd never heard a doctor explain this to me. Basically, what you just said right there is building the muscle. It's not just that. It's also it's gonna save me from disease. I've never heard that before. I've never heard that. That's amazing.
Oh
Mind
man,
blown.
that that's that's the ultimate secret, man. Muscle, need it.
Muscle stay. I didn't like. I thought it was just. I mean, like I've never heard a doctor actually say it's gonna help me avoid disease as well to build muscle.
Yeah, because like muscle is like it produces all these different chemicals and stuff in our body to stabilize us, to help us to fight levels of inflammation. There's not 5,000 medical diagnostics, there's one. It's inflammation at the cellular level. All we're doing in a lot of allopathic traditional medicine is treating the downstream manifestation of an upstream cellular problem. Like a lot of cellular problems can be resolved by having muscle mass available with the appropriate energy in it. And movement in creating blood flow and draining your muscle mass desires attention. It needs to be given that attention so it can continue to grow and operate. And so like giving that thing, like we're stressing it, we're weighting it, we're designed to move. We need to do these things. This is why I like the body sculpting aspect, is because most people, they do want to look better, they do want to lose weight, but like finding the time can be challenging, finding the motivation to do it. Sometimes they just need a catalyst. And these new technologies are amazing for that because it can give you the jump to go from like zero to fast to get it so that you're like, oh, I got my tummy looking better. So I feel good about going into the gym, or I feel good in a swimsuit, a bikini, or my shorts. I can go out there and I can look like I'm actually proud of my system. So then mentally, you can then put that engagement of like, I did that first amount of the hinge. It's like inertia, right? Inertia is like that physical resistance in physics of something standing still or moving. It has to have something to act on it. If you're stationary, and then the heavier the mass is in physics, it takes more energy to push it and get it moving forward. So this is just like basically we've created a catalyst to accelerate you in your mind, in your body to move forward so you can burn fat, you can grow muscle, and then you're like, man, I got the momentum. It's a lot easier to keep momentum going than to start it yourself. That's what these are beautiful for.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. I mean, wow. That was gold. Thank you, Chewy. I mean, basically what you explained there is the positive feedback loop when it comes to my health. And if we can use these tools as a catalyst, right? A back and forth catalyst, it helps me get more active and that back and forth. And then all of a sudden I'm healthy, where if I didn't have that catalyst, then maybe I would never get off the couch. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, exactly. And then you're more prone for like the biggest risks out there, cardiovascular disease, cancer, diabetes, those kind of things. Like because you're not moving, those are muscles of incapacity, right? The majority of them is because we're not
Yeah.
using our tissues.
So logistically, let's talk about some of these catalysts, some of these tools that very few of us know about. Like, how do these machines work? Like, what do they do? Like, what are these treatments that very little of us know anything about?
Good question. So like the one that I utilize, well, one I have multiple, but like Emsculpt NEO is the one that has a dual frequency way of applying itself into our tissues. One of them is alternating radio frequencies, which is like a capacity to accelerate into the tissue and it heats the tissue. In particular, it goes to about 109 to 114-ish degrees inside the saturation of your tissues, which fat, for example, dies at that point. There's something called apoptosis, which is cell-mediated and assisted suicide, as opposed to like having the cell explode and you like killed it. That's called cell lysis, which then causes inflammation, pain, and the body's got to clean up a lot. Self-mediated suicide, the apoptosis, is we clean it out and then you just kind of just pee the process out. There's no trauma, anything like that. So this initiates it by heating the tissue evenly about 3 inches into your body. Whereas opposed to like say like why can't I just do it in like a sauna? Like that's very superficial. It doesn't get down to those areas for deep enough to actually create that instability. That's one, radio frequency. Number two is what's called HIFEM, high interval frequency electromagnetics. It's magnetic waves that cause something called a supramaximal contraction. It can make your muscles contract all the fibers of it more than we're able to do neurologically
Right.
naturally ourselves. So
More
we
than
can
the
yeah, because muscles are all about like you work them out so that they get slightly damaged, so then
right.
they can accelerate the body's ability to recover and repair, and then that grows strength, that grows size, hypertrophy. The supramaximal contraction gets all the fibers evenly, and it can do it longer and stronger than we can physically do on neuron activation alone. So we have the ability to really increase strength and muscular development in a very short period of time. Like a mind-blowing stat is like one 30-minute session on your abdominals is equivalent to 20,000 contractions. So if you did 20,000 crunches, we
Whoa.
can do that in 30 minutes for you. Like it's crazy.
Well, that sounds like a deal.
Yeah.
Okay, so first way is through the radio frequencies, heating up my fat so that it kind of like I can kind of just, get it out of my system. Pee
Yeah.
out the fat is the way I like to say that.
Yeah.
And then number two is through the contractions.
Yeah.
And so these devices, and so like what type of number of treatments are like patients looking at, and like how does that work?
So in the clinical studies, 4 was what they got those numbers. 30% of your fat loss, 25% of the muscle area treated thickening. And then in the backside, if you look at it, there was like somewhere between like 17 or 19% visceral fat like loss, which is interesting too, because that's like the death fat, right? The organ fat, the not good stuff. We that's like the clinical versions. We have seen a better result at 6. At 4,
Six.
we're like just getting there about 6 treatments. So we do it about once a week. You really want to be like no longer than like as close together as about 4 days apart, as a long way as about 2 weeks. So ideally, once a week is kind of like a really happy medium that works for people's schedules because it's about a half-hour treatment and to get the results that they want. And then the effects continue to compound and build for the next 90 days after your last treatment. So it's like 90 days on top of a 6 week program would be like where you reach your full effect.
Wow. Okay. So 6 weeks in would be like 45 days. No, 6 times 7, 42, about 45 days. But then
Yeah.
you see the full effects of the treatments about 90 days after the first treatment.
Yeah. But you start to see the effects almost immediately, which is very
Yeah.
helpful. But to mature the full effects, it's a full 90 days.
And people get pumped literally, and they're
Yeah,
like,
man. So I can show you another one that was this was mine. When I first got it, I was like, okay, I want to test this out and see what this can do for me. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna do a my own trial, and um, I'm not going to do any abdominal work. I'm already pretty lean and stay tight and clean on my diet and stuff like that. But I was like, I want to see what this can actually do for my abs. So this was 6 sessions with my device for me, and I didn't do
Okay.
any abdominal exercises during that 6 week time frame.
What? Oh my God. And you did no additional like abdominal exercises.
No ab work. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Like I think I get an exaggerated amount of results on this because I'm already clean in my diet. Like
Yeah.
I kind of live that life. So maybe I'm going to have an exaggerated effect compared to like somebody who's not
Yeah.
doing that. And we've seen that with my patients. But dude, like this thing has it's kind of like in a magic wand. Yeah, I feel like really like we're hanging out in like freaking Star Trek now that this stuff is legitimately here. I was a little skeptical at first, but like get the results for me and all the patients that we're doing that, man, it's like time after time after time. People are like, dude, this thing's
That's
great.
amazing. So how many patients are you serving a week on those two types of treatments?
So they do it at the same time. So like they happen on the same treatment. That varies from week to week. Sometimes we're like booked up, and other times it's a little more sparse. But when we first brought it on, it is not a inexpensive piece of equipment. So we were nervous about like what's the ROI, what's
Yeah.
the cost going to be? Because like that's a big thing for a lot of practitioners. Is like, oh, if you're looking at this steep hill, you're like, man, can I afford that?
Yeah.
So I'm a small practice. It's just me. I have a front desk and my wife. So like that's it. Like we're just a tiny little bit. We're in a town of 7,000 people. So like having something that you come in that's you're buying a house to put in your office,
Yeah.
basically. We get it in there and I was like, oh, I was a little nervous, and we start to churn and burn, and we produced, man, close to 100K in the first 90 to 100 days.
Nice.
So it was a pretty good investment for us.
Yeah.
In fact, like when we and if you guys are interested, I have like a marketing guy who's really good at it. You can message me or contact me on the outside, and I'll give you his info. I don't want to leave that here because I didn't have permission for that. But he helped us when we first launched. That we did for $764 in ad spend, we generated over $24,000 in return. That was like a
Oh,
30x, 3,000% increase. We blew my mind at how much return.
hold up, hold up, hold up. Money magnet alert! Oh, 764 in ad spend for like you said around 25,000 in sales, 30,000 in sales.
25, yeah, it was like 24 something. But like
Wow.
with anything with like marketing, it's not like just about like the sales, the process, the money. It's about the person's result, developing that with the patient, the rapport, so we can actually deliver that. Because I'm all about results, not promises, right? Like you
Yeah.
get out there and make it happen, and they can see that, and then they love us.
Yeah.
If I promise them one thing and I can't deliver that thing, well, I mean, we're in a tiny town of 7,000 people. Word of mouth is going to be one of those things that doesn't go well for us. So,
How long ago did you get your machines?
last August.
Last August. Okay. So this is just starting to take off.
Yeah.
Are you getting like some word of mouth referrals already? Like are people
A lot of word of mouth referrals. We did something that was interesting for our clinic. We took our existing client base and we did like a little flyer that we mailed out, like, hey, we're doing this thing, and we have like a little promo just for the patients who have already been with us and they love us, they know, like, and trust us.
Yeah.
We brought them in that we'd give them like a special discount, and like that alone, like pump, that was like 20 some odd $1,000 in like a single day. We had like a pamper day. They come in and test it out and do it, and that went really well. And those are patients that we already had, right? We didn't have to do any additional spending on that other than like print out like the flyer,
Yeah.
stuff an envelope and mail it. It's easy.
Yeah. Love it. Love it. Now, you mentioned it's like buying a house to get this type of equipment. Okay. So does the equipment, is it one machine that does both?
Yeah.
The, okay, it does both. And you said it does it simultaneously?
Simultaneously, but we can independently toggle whether we're like increasing the radial frequency heat or we're increasing the muscular contraction. You can do those independent.
Now, you said, so cost of buying a house. So, I mean, Oregon houses are like $4 million, right? No.
You're not wrong, man. Oregon's not a very real estate friendly area. You're looking like 300 plus.
300 plus. Okay. No, that gives us all a really good idea. So is it fair to say 300 plus, but some people pay that off and they're at break even within like the first year?
Yeah, I think that's like very realistic
Very
with
realistic.
the process. Like if you have the right marketing strategy and your patient demographic, and when you're talking about like investments for ROI in a business, like a lot of times like ROI is 5 years. Like this is not going to be one of those kind of ROI things if you're actually utilizing the process, because patients ask for it, they want it, and then they demand to have that kind of like a result. So it's one of those that's you just kind of like offer it and you're going to fill a vacuum that your community is already wanting. And now, like last October, well, I guess it was November 1st, it became FDA approved. It was already FDA approved for like the non-surgical liposuction component of it, but it became FDA approved for what's called functional wellness. So I became the first FDA approved functional wellness center in the entire state of Oregon, which was exciting. I
Whoa.
was stoked about that last October 1st. That only lasted for like a couple hours. My buddy over in Portland, he came on board right after me, so I didn't hold that for very long, but I did I was like, man, first, yeah.
Let's go.
But it has the ability to also release muscle spasms to again growing that muscle tissue that if you have an injury, we can like really do a lot of rehab components for it as opposed to just the aesthetic side. Which was kind of always what I was doing anyway. It was like grow it to stabilize a joint, grow it to stabilize a shoulder, your spine, that kind of stuff, which was technically off label initially. And now it's kind of coming more to like the on label. So I was kind of like, just don't tell me about what you're doing, kind of a thing with the company. And I was doing it. And then now I actually kind of go around with the company and talk about like functional protocols, how we can like do these
Nice.
kind of things and assist with rehab of like a torn meniscus or you have a spinal degenerative segment into your back. How do we grow the muscle to stabilize and hold the position of your vertebra better? Those kind of
That's amazing. So they're having you like travel around and like share the good word on this
yeah,
opportunity,
yeah.
basically. Oh my
Which is great.
gosh.
They're a really awesome organization called BTL out of the Czech Republic. I think they're the largest physiotherapy company out of Europe and possibly even the world. They're one of the like 1,000-pound gorillas in the space, but they're great.
Man, this is getting good. Y'all seeing this? I've got so many questions. I'm about to drop like 10 questions. Things are about to get crazy, y'all. Let's go. I've got so many questions now. Now that I know that you're traveling around, you're sharing the word about this. You told me something really cool actually. Pre-call, you said this is working so well for us, and we're being so well known for this in our area that I used to do a lot of adjustments as a chiropractor, but now you're down to like 20, 30 a week. Is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Probably less than that, to be honest. Like I just don't do like where like physical medicine and everything like that is important. We have a lot of other machines and devices that we focus on. Again, like inflammatory reaction, nerve recovery repair, things like that that I feel like I can have a much more potent impact long term that other people aren't doing.
Yeah.
Where like we've got X amount of number of chiros in the town, so I can then be like, hey, like where I can pose like my best benefit for the patient is things that they are not getting anywhere else. So like an adjustment they can get other places. I still do like for like certain patients, I'll do adjustments or like fascia body work and stuff. It's just not much anymore. Where I used to be doing, we would do 70 a day. Now I'm doing like maybe 10 to 20 a week. So
Yeah.
it's, yeah, and we've never been more profitable. We've never been more expansive. And so it's just like you can be able to pivot like what works for your personality, where you find like your passion into it. I love like data research, man. Like if I was to be like, man, you just won the lottery. What are you going to do with your life? And I was like, I'm going to read. I'm going to pack up a whole bunch of books and go travel the world, sit on the mountain and just pile through them. I love that. You know,
Yeah,
it's
100%.
yeah, it's like, they always talk about the negativity of like ADHD or Asperger's, autism, that kind of stuff. So I jokingly say I have a touch of the tism. So like on tests, I actually test that I'm on spectrum. So like having ADHD and slightly on the spectrum, like I have an untold amount of ability to focus on any number of projects at any one time. And then because I can see the world in a different way that other people can't see it, I can do things that other people can't do. They're superpowers. And
Yeah.
I love it.
Yeah, amazing. Well, I tell you what, I'm super pumped for everything that you're sharing. I want to talk because this is the marketing podcast party. I want to talk marketing a little bit more. Now you've got the paradigm, you've got the viewpoint of the company that with these machines that they're having you travel around, they're having you share success stories, case
Yeah.
studies, etc. And then also locally, now a town of only 7,000 people. Are you guys only advertising to your town, or are you guys trying to get people from other cities, surrounding
We've
areas to
we've
travel to
expanded our geographic region now that we're about 60 miles outside of our town because it's
you? Okay.
small and it's very rural. So like that is like a big range where in a big city you probably wouldn't be doing more than like 5 or 10 miles wise from your office. Just because of like population. So yeah, we've been doing more with like Facebook and Instagram. We start to like generate a little content, have like offers. An offer is always like a key thing to be able to generate a process, but also like infusing like your why, the reason you're doing this. You know, like
Yeah.
I really like Simon Sinek when it comes to like marketing ideals. Is like the idea in business is not to do business with everyone who needs what you have. Because with this, everybody could really use this, whether it's for
Yeah.
aesthetics or function. The idea in business is to do business with those who believe what you believe. So
Right.
you share out what you believe in your purpose and your process, and the people who already identify with that are naturally going to be drawn to that entity because they're like, oh, it fulfills me, it speaks to me aspects. So like we try and cater our marketing to like statements of like this is why we do that, we believe this, and here's our results in some of our stories, and then other people are like, man, maybe that could work for me. So it's identifying them in their process so that they are enticed to do something for themselves as opposed to like, oh, well, I want to do this thing because he told me to do it. Yeah.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing is when it comes to the marketing aspect, the attraction of your dream clients, two main things are working. One is offer based, just letting people know what's available and making sexy offers. And the second is focusing on the why.
Yeah.
Do I got that right? All right, great. Then my question is this: what type of offers to give me an idea of? So from marketing wise, you said Facebook and Instagram's working. What do the offers kind of look like? Is it like my first session is free, or is it like
Well,
something
right
that
now
makes it a little bit more?
we're running an offer that's like a BOGO that it's almost 50% off. So these will range anywhere in price treatment depending on town, where you're at, everything like that. From around $700 to $1,000 a treatment. The national average I think is $850. So like
Oh
we
wow.
retail at about $1,000 for a treatment, but we will run promotional specials that if you come in and you get like a full series and you do it by this particular date and you do it on the time you have like a consultation, then we will give you almost 50% off. So like that we promo deals are really great because they drive an influx of people and then the referrals come through and you go for
Yeah.
that aspect. Those promo deals are really helpful because it incites action currently now. It gives
Yeah.
them an avenue to actually follow through with. So our initial offer is like, come have it. We have a free gift for them, which is just like a relaxing red light therapy to turn down their cortisol and help with fine lines and wrinkles and collagen in their face. So it just feels nice. And so we give that as a free thing for them to do it if they like register and sign up with us. They come into a consultation for their 50% off, whatever their programming is. So like we don't have like a specific like kind of like price rangey for like people because one person may want his arms or his glutes and his abs. So it's we
Mm,
don't say like it's going to be this much on average because it's varied for every person depending
yeah.
on their body state, size, and what they want. So we give them that, and then if they go with an offer, then we give them the consultation for free.
Gotcha.
And so we discount in our consultation like time frame. It's like $60 for a consultation. So if they get a package, they get the consultation waived. If they're like, oh, the package isn't for me, then they pay the consultation fee, but they can still get the red light therapy for free.
Awesome. Awesome. Uh, when so people don't know this, but
Yeah.
Chewy and I met in Idaho at an event called I Do Epic in the middle of the mountains, and you brought a machine out there. I did not take advantage of the setup that you had set up. Was it the exact machine that you're mentioning, or
Different
was it
machine, similar idea. It's a magnetic therapy was one of the ways.
okay?
The red light was the that I was mentioning. That was one of the things I brought out for you. But
Okay.
I love, like I said, like energies and the magnetic frequencies that I brought out there for everybody to test. That seminar is more for like wellness, inflammation control, reduction, growing stability for bone growth. If you have a fractured bone, it can help stabilize and regrow that. The newer magnetic frequencies is more about muscular development, nerve activation, fat reduction, those kind of things. So kind of like different avenues of the spectrum, but both magnetic waves.
Gotcha. Love it. Love it. One of my biggest questions is, who are these treatments not for?
Great. Yeah. So like these are magnetic waves. They have the ability, they act almost like an EMP, like electromagnetic pulse. You see like the military or movies, because it can fry microchips. So
You just gave me the image of Captain America in the capsule, and he goes in a scrawny guy, and he comes out all beefed up. Am,
yeah,
am I getting the wrong image?
totally, man. So for the people that it's not for is like someone who has like a implanted electronic device,
Yeah.
right? So they have a pacemaker, they have a neurostimulator, those kind of machines that are like surgically implanted into that we can't take off. We don't know that it's actually going to reprogram or do anything of that, but the risk of it actually doing that is at question. And I don't want to be the guy that is like, well, I don't know how to reprogram a pacemaker, so if it happened to reset that, I was like, no, I'm screwed. I don't want to do that to a person. It's not worth it. But for
Right.
example, people who have like those little like continuous glucose monitors that you see in the back of their arms, you've seen those? You know what I'm talking about?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, so these like they're these Dexicom um, little devices. It looks like this. It's like this little
Okay.
patch that will like go onto the back of their arm, and it reads their blood glucose, so you can see what your insulin and like that kind of stuff is doing from day to day. Like it can literally read you about every 5 minutes, update current. So I had a patient who was she's diabetic, type 1, and she was wanting to do her glutes. And that machine, she had it on her glutes because she didn't like it on her triceps. Normally it's on the triceps. So it was on her glutes, and we were doing her glutes, and I was like, well, I don't know what this is going to do to your machine. And so she's like, okay. And I was like, I have extra ones up front, so if I fry it, like I'll just give you a new one, and you can then put it on and go from there. We did it, and it was literally like her device was right here, and the machine was like this close. It was literally almost touching her device.
Yeah.
It's fine. So, like, these are precautionary things.
Yeah.
Like women who have like an IUD, but they're the copper wire IUDs. They're non-hormonal, but they create a physiological response
Right.
inside to help with the fertility.
Yeah.
It's copper. Copper is very conductive. You don't want to be beaming waves through that because it has the potential to heat that up. Again, not tested, but we just don't venture that because, like, I don't want to heat that up down there.
Yeah, and I don't want to be I don't want to be the one to test it. No, like if I'm a woman, I'm not gonna be your test dummy on that one. Like no way.
But other than that, it's pretty safe and go for just about everybody else. Even all age ranges too, because you can
Okay.
change the tolerance too. So you could be senior and really do that, which I think is amazing too, because it grows muscle. That's what they're losing so rapidly, and the reason they're
Yeah.
becoming so frail and susceptible to diseases, they've lost muscle mass. And so
Right.
the risk of like falling, breaking a hip, something like that, they legitimately, that's what like our older generation is passing away from, is that they're literally dying from a lack of muscle because they don't have the ability to get up off the floor. They don't have the ability to stay stable, and they tripped and fell and broke a hip, and then they got an embolism or a thrombus into their brain or their lungs. These are real
Yeah.
risks, and muscle can mitigate that.
So if I'm at risk for heart disease or anything like that, basically what you're saying is it's still okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
it's great. It's good.
That's good. It can be helpful
Yeah,
in those types of situations.
absolutely.
Love it, love it, love it. Then what we have to dive into now, and we've got. I know. We promised to keep it under an hour. Just got so many
We're
questions.
good. We can keep rolling.
So, if I am a doctor
Yeah.
or somebody adjacent, because it's like it's not just a doctor that can add body sculpting to their business.
It
Others can
depends on
do
the
it.
state. Some states you have to be a doctor, some
Okay.
states you don't. So that's
Oh,
legislative state specific.
okay, okay. So in Florida, probably I have to be a doctor in Florida to add this to a business. I mean, we would have to look up every single state. Every state is different, but Florida has a lot of rules. So, um, so about what percentage of the states do you know off the top of your head?
Oh man, I don't know. I know like California you have to be a doctor, like Oregon you don't have to be a doctor, Washington you don't have to be a doctor. I think the majority you don't have to be a doctor. They come and they have good clinical training. They come on and help you vet how to do the processes. They've got instilled programs or protocols to make sure that you're safe and you have like your clinical training experience. You know how to like what to avoid and all that kind of stuff. They're pretty good as a company like really taking care of you. I really like I've worked with a ton of different companies, organizations, stuff, and these guys have really like rolled out the red carpet that you feel like kind of royalty. And like you
Nice.
text them, you call them, whatever, they're like right back at you. Where a lot of times there's a lot of running around. And I haven't been in this case with these guys. So really, customer service is high.
Love it, love it. So, for the doctors out there, uh, uh, people that have clinics, their own medical practice, etc., what's the ideal situation for somebody to add this to their business? Obviously, if you're a chiropractor, it can make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What other types of doctors does this make sense for? What types of people in certain situations? What the type of clinic or the type of
Perfect.
avatar that they're
Yeah.
already attracting?
So the aesthetics clinics is like a good one because there's a lot of aesthetic component to it. So whether they're like a Botox place or you know they're hyaluronic acid and collagen kind of like stuff for fine lines and wrinkles, this is a great ad for those. Medical practitioners who are they're more focused on like metabolic health and inflammatory reduction, or they're doing any kind of like weight loss treatment with like any of the new things like GLPs, like Ozempic, Wegovy, they're like GLP activators, or trizepatide, which is better like phase 2 for that to help people assist to lose weight. This literally is almost like should be almost required for those because what those do is they change the way the body interacts with like how you feel for hunger and then assist the body's ability to burn those additional calories. But the problem is about 40 to 60%, depending on which studies you're looking at, of your weight you're losing when you do like Ozempic or GLP-1 activators is lean mass. Because most of the time they're prescribing them to lose weight, but they don't tell them you need to lift weights at the same time or you're going to waste muscle. And again, as we talked about, muscle is the most important thing
Yeah,
for your longevity. So doing this in concert with some of those like GLP peptides that they're having,
yeah.
that's the kiss of perfection right there because then we can get your metabolic system under control, but we're not going to risk losing the metabolic process of your lean tissue. Like I feel like this should be standard of care for those weight loss medications.
I see exactly what you're saying because a lot of those medications, like people rave about them. They're like, yeah, I lost 30 pounds, I lost 50 pounds, I lost 60 pounds. But the question is, yes, and what
Yeah.
percentage? Because you are consuming less calories.
Yes.
You are, in a way, because the number on the scale looks good, in a way, you're incentivized to keep that number low,
Yeah.
which means you might be opposed mentally to, well, I don't want to, maybe I don't want to lift weights because then that number goes up on the scale at
Yeah.
times,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
But
And
how
the
much?
scale is such a liar.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, the scale tells you the wrong story. So like body fat metrics, like bioelectrical impedance, although it is imperfect, it gives a estimation of imperfection over time evenly. So like if you were to take it and get like body fat scanned at the hospital, you can get an accurate thing. Maybe you're 3 to 4% off with your home unit device, but the how it changes in your progression, that's going to be symmetrical, right? That's going to be normal because it's going to be the same every time. So watching your body fat go down, that's the ticket. That's the key for those because we want to save lean tissue.
There you go. That's another. I mean, we already did the mind blow music, but Dr. Bryan Call, once again, it's you got to pay attention to that body fat percentage. That's what it's all about to stay healthy, stay
Yeah.
fit.
And
Mind
muscle
blowing.
weighs more than
Mind blowing.
fat too. So as you're doing when you're doing these therapies, oftentimes you won't see that scale number change that much. Sometimes they'll even add a pound or two. It's because muscle weighs more than fat. So as we're losing the fat and you're growing muscle, like you actually might have an increase in the scale. But what you see is changes in size, in inches, in structure, in how you appear. And look, you can see striations of muscles into your abdomen or into your biceps or calves, whatever we're treating. That's what we're looking for is like volumetric change, like circumference change, inches lost in your pants change, even though your scale number didn't alter.
Yeah, there you go. So let me ask you this. So we asked about the type of doctors this makes sense for, but who does is there type of clinic, medical practice where it's not congruent, like it wouldn't
Yeah.
really make as much
So,
sense?
this is because it's newer, like it's not going to be covered by any insurances. So if you're a heavily insurance-based
Okay.
practice, medical practice, chiropractic practice, whatever, if insurance is your style, and you're not used to like cash pay presentations where you have to like uh, help the customer understand like the process and provide an offer that has value that they have to exchange uh, monetary value for, right? So if you're an
Yeah.
insurance-based practice and you're doing this, I wouldn't recommend going with such a high piece of equipment to do it. Can it generate those revenue funds for you? Absolutely. But if you're just beginning to learn how to do outside of the system of insurance and approach people for a cash exchange, I
Okay.
would recommend trying it with something else first. So that's not that this is not for you. Like this is for the more experienced people who are cash pay practices or they're partial insurance cash, so they're
Right.
familiar with that setup and how to present and work with clients from that avenue one day to the next. This is a great avenue and it can really and pretty autonomously generate a large scale of revenue for your business. And it's because like you're like delivering like high quality results to these patients. So they're happy to make that exchange because this is something they've
Yeah.
wanted for a long time.
Perfect. So let's theoretically, if I was a dermatologist or a chiropractor and I'm like, hey, I think this might make sense for my practice. What's like a last question? What's like a 2 minute, really fast business plan just laid out for moving forward for getting started with something like this?
So yeah, moving forward to this, I would like have this going, and then like once you have it get in, you get your initial trainings, you test it out, and you put it onto yourself to kind of like see like how it is. I would then talk with your representative who can like kind of give you some aspects to help you kind of massage your social atmosphere and presence to go to your patients. Write up a quick script that you can send out, a physical copy to all the patients you have on your email list currently. Excuse me. And when you can then send that out to them with an invitation for an offer for them to come test out and try it, and do a special pricing for people who have already been with you. That generated an intense amount of capital for us. And then about 10 days later, we sent almost that identical thing in an email format to our whole email list, and then generated an additional amount of income because there's different mediums as to who's going to focus on what. And sometimes it just takes multiple times to be able to do that. So then you've got that going on. Then you're going to be able to work with your rep for a spa type day. This is like a presentation where the rep of the company would literally come to your office and host and talk about and help accelerate people who have interest in to do this. post up some flyers, do some marketing campaigns, send an email, social media posts that we're going to have this day on this date, that you can come in for a few quick, like a 5-minute sampling that you can feel what it feels like to have the magnetics put onto whatever area you're going to do it. So you understand the power of it, like personally in process. And then have a special offer available for the patients for that particular day. That will generate some capital and money for you. I know there's some friends of mine who are not that far away from my office who did that, and they generated about 65 grand in one afternoon from doing that one thing alone. Then once you've got that, now you're going to need to be able to plan out your social media calendars and stuff like that. So when people start to come in, ask if you can take a couple little snippets so you have some content to be able to drive into that has the ability to create awareness. Like, it's most of the time before somebody makes a purchase, it's going to be at least 7 touches minimum on this thing before it makes sense to them that they're going to be able to kind of go in. That's like an average. And so you're going to want to be out there creating that content and pushing it out to make that happen. Once that goes, then you're going to be wanting to have some sort of an offer online, whether that's Instagram, Facebook. You're going to drive it into like a funnel, a landing page that you can then collect and exchange something nominal for something valuable. So I'm going to give them a free offer to come in and have red light. If you come and have a consultation with me, all you need to do is give me your phone number and your email so that I can keep in touch with you. It gives me an alert when they sign up. I contact them within 5 minutes is what our goal is from like speed to lead. We'd love to be able to get them in 5 minutes after they sign up, because then they're hot. They know exactly what we're talking about. You 3 days later, you call them up and you're like, you signed up for this little promo deal. You want to come in? And they're like, who are you? So like speed to lead is definitely something that you need to do in the marketing component. And then if you guys have interest in that, I have a guy who's amazing at that. Like I said, he got me a 30x return, over 3,000% return on our first offerings for that. If you contact me and you want that information, I'll hit him up. I didn't have his approval to give out his stuff individually, so I'd be happy to field those.
Whoa, 3,000. Hold up. 3,000% money magnet alert. Let's go. 3,000% ROI with that campaign. Let's go.
That was a mind blower for us.
Yeah. I'll take that all the time, and then just send over more. Just give me more of that, right?
Yeah,
so
totally.
I love that. Like, you're so good at the marketing side. It's very apparent to me, Chewy, why you're so good at what you do. Why people love your practice. Why you're such a good voice for the industry as a whole with the body sculpting, and why so many people look up to you. We've come to the end, so I would like to ask. So there's obviously people that want to get in touch with you to pick your brain more, to get more advice from you. What do you have for us? Where should we be sending people? Let us know how to get in touch with you.
So you can reach out to me on my Instagram, which is at Dr. Bryan Call, just dr.bryan.call. That's my handle on our social media on Instagram. Our office here in Hood River, Oregon is Cell Regen, CELLREGEN. So it's at cell.regen is our handle on Instagram. And I'd be happy to field any of the questions. If you just send me a direct message of like, hey, I want to talk to your guy, or I have a question on this stuff. I read all of the messages that come through our organization. So somebody may initially field it, but I read everything. So I'll get to that. I will get back to you. Yeah.
Simply amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Call. And with that, all right, thank you for joining us in this episode of the Marketing Podcast Party. Please share this episode with your friends, family, and business partners. Also, remember that the party continues with your free copy of the Ideas That Influence book and interactive box experience. I wrote the book and created the box experience to help you with even more wildly successful marketing ideas. Head on over to bigideasbox.com to grab your free copy. You'll get your copy for free. You just pay shipping and handling. Once again, that's bigideasbox.com. for your free plus shipping copy of Ideas and Influence. I'm Daniel Din. This is the Marketing Podcast Party, and I'll see you in the next episode.